Hi everyone, I can see that you're slowly trickling in. We'll leave it a few minutes so more people can join, and then we'll begin at about 7:05.
Sorry, I just saw a message from Beth Taylor asking if we can see their video. No, we can't see your video, don't worry.
Is everyone able to see us and hear us? Just to make sure, I think there's someone having a little bit of difficulties with it. Okay, Beth, you might need to change your settings on your Zoom, maybe. Sorry, I'm not a whiz kid on Zoom. So we've just got a few more coming. We'll begin in about 2 minutes time, so 7:05. This feels like the longest 5 minutes ever. Okie dokes then, so we'll begin. So hello everyone and welcome to this year's AGM. Thank you for coming this evening, and we really do hope that you're all keeping well. So before we begin, we will start with introductions. So hello, I'm Fionn and I'm the president here at the Students' Union. I'll pass over to Teresa.
Hello, good evening. My name is Teresa and I am your education officer.
Liza.
Hi everyone, I'm Liza and I'm your welfare officer.
Georgia Smith.
Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Georgia and I'm your sports officer.
Georgia Rose.
Hi everyone, I'm Georgia Rose and I'm the Societies and Services officer.
And Katie.
Hey everyone, I'm Katie, the Welsh Affairs officer.
And we also have Alpha here, who's our General Secretary, who will be asking us the FTO's questions later, so your questions. Okay, so moving on. So just a few housekeeping bits to go through before we start. As you came onto the call, you will have seen that this webinar has been recorded for minuting purposes, and so we can also share this on our social media following the meeting for anyone who may have missed it. So this meeting will also have Zoom caption on. You can probably see it coming up at the bottom of your screen now. If anyone has any questions throughout the evening, please put them in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen, please, and not in the chat. We would endeavour to answer all your questions. However, anything not answered will be put in our newsletter and the social media, posted on social media in the next coming days. Also, can any society members who are here please email Jerry or Georgia Rose, any reps to email Thomas, and any sports members to email Georgia or Thomas Weller. And all email addresses, if you don't know the email addresses, can be found on the union website. So welcome to everyone, and also a special welcome to our external trustees who are here this evening. So thank you all for joining us. So let's move on to our agenda for the evening then. So I'll begin by going through how we'll vote for motions, being one motion submitted. Georgia Rose will give us a presentation on the audited accounts. I will give this year's trustee report. We'll then move on to the officer accountability video and then touch on the amazing work that our part-time officers have been doing. We'll discuss the elections that are coming up, which is very exciting. We'll then move on to any motions that have been submitted. Like I said, one motion has been submitted, and then we'll have the officer questions with Alpha. So let's start. How will we vote? So in the absence of electronic voters and due to the online format of this AGM, we will be using a survey from SurveyMonkey for you to vote on motions anonymously. The link to the survey will be shared once all motions have been presented, and the results will be included in our newsletter and again posted on social media in the coming days. So without further ado, I will pass on to Georgia Rose, who will give us the audited accounts this year.
Thank you. So Swansea University Students' Union is an unincorporated charity established under the Education Act of 1994. It was registered as a charity within the Charity Commission on the 27th of November 2012. This follows the changes that were implemented on the 1st of October 2009 when students' unions connected with exempt higher and further education institutions that were removed by the Charities Act from the list of exempt charities. The union's external auditors are called Crowe, who are a part of the largest accounting network in the world and have units specialising in students' unions. Their responsibility to our board and membership is to carry out an audit and express an opinion on the financial statements of the union and that of its trading subsidiary, SUSU Trading Limited. Following the completion of the audit, there are two reports that are presented to the trustees. One is the audit's finding report, and two is a trustee's report and financial statements. Audit findings report. This is available for our trustees and audit committee. The audit findings report is important to mention in the context of this presentation as it comments on any matters arising from the audit work that need to be brought to the attention of the trustees. This will include an evaluation of internal system financial controls that was necessary for the purpose of the audit. The good news is that the auditors reported to the trustees that there are no system or control issues to highlight. This is the 7th year in succession that the auditors have reported to the trustee board that there are no recommendations to be made within the audit findings report. The trustees for this financial year and last financial year are listed on this slide. This is a very important achievement for the union, as it not only demonstrates that the union has a great financial team, but also that its membership, the university stakeholders can have faith in the union's internal financial procedures and reporting processes, something that is key to its continued funding. On to the accounts themselves. The accounts are set out in accordance with the latest SORP, which is the Statement of Recommended Practice. Although the SORP provides consistency with financial reporting across the charity sector, it is not very beneficial for our day-to-day reporting. For this, the trustees receive a monthly information pack containing the management accounts. These are presented in a different format to the SORP and are presented in a way that is more helpful to make operational decisions. The results section on this page, shows the effect of the full year's financial performance and compares this to the previous year. This is split into 4 headings. So we have restricted funds for societies and sports clubs. This is the total amount of funds held by the union on behalf of each society and sport club. At the 31st of July 2020, this total stood at £125,709. The reason why these are called restricted funds is that they are not the union's to spend. We then have restricted funds under the pension deficit. The union, along with many others, belongs to a pension scheme, which, like many others, is in deficit. This deficit can be simply explained as the difference between the scheme's assets and its liabilities. The union has a share of this deficit, as does every other member union, and this share was valued by our external auditors at around 32.5 million on the 31st of July 2020. This is an increase of £644,046 compared to the previous year. The good news is that this liability is not something that the union or any other one has to pay today, tomorrow, or next year. It is a long-term liability and that will continue to be paid for several years. It is also very dependent on the state of financial markets, as the assets of the scheme are linked to a range of investments, all managed by an investment company on behalf of the trustees of the pension scheme. We then have unrestricted funds. This is a level of reserves held at the end of the financial year. You can see that this stands at £634,798. This is up by around 20% the previous year. This is the operating surplus for the year. We then have designated funds. So this is the level of reserves allocated by the trustees for a specific project. In this case, we have Bay Campus development. So how important are these funds or reserves? Reserves are essentially an accumulation of historical surpluses retained within the union for a specific purpose in the future. The unrestricted funds reserve is available for a future purpose, which is yet to be recognised, but is a type of rainy day fund. Fionn will thoroughly go over our achievements and performance in her trustees report soon, but it is important to note the brief overview of our societies, sports clubs, and advice and support centre shown on this slide. So now on to the risks. Risk 1, we have the reduction of financial assistance from the university. This is our greatest risk, but we will continue to build on and develop the positive working relationship we have with the university to minimise the likelihood of this happening. Risk 2 is commercial budgets. This is very challenging for all commercial organisations, and further decisions at local and national governmental level concerning lockdown restrictions will continue to affect our operations. Risk 3. Although this is a cost that is directly out of our control, we will continue to work with the university to minimise the future impact it has on the union. Aside from the financials, it is very important to highlight just some of the key achievements that happened during the year despite the COVID-19 pandemic. The union's response to the COVID-19 pandemic included developing an updated business continuity plan and the potential financial consequences, utilising the government furlough scheme to minimise the financial impact to the union in the respect of staff costs. Over 150 students were placed on furlough leave so that the union could help have an income whilst our services were unable to operate due to the imposed lockdown measures. Costcutter remained open during the entirety of lockdown, which provided critical support to students, staff, and the wider community. Despite the economical impact of COVID-19, the union still managed to declare a small operational surplus for the year, and to this day, no staff redundancies have been made. Now, there are lots of numbers on this page, so I won't go into too much detail here, but the key summary is that the total charitable income for the financial year was just over £4.5 million. This includes around 30% less commercial revenue than last year, and this is directly due to the impact of COVID-19. All profits generated from the union's commercial services are given to the union by way of a gift aid payment, and a gift aid payment of £27,072 will be made during this financial year. Next slide, please. Further down, you'll see that there is a net movement of funds of 27,793, which is the gift aid payment due from trading activities, plus a very small surplus of £721 left over from our charitable activities. This figure is then added into our reserves as shown. The rest of the financial statements provide some further background to the numbers in the accounts presented, and therefore, if there are any specific questions relating to these, then please get in touch with me and I will pass these on to the finance team. 2019 to 2020 was definitely a tough year for most charities, especially those of which are supported by commercial trading. 2020 to 2021 has also proved to be extremely challenging. Despite this, we are weathering the storm as best as we can, and the union is in good financial shape to meet these challenges, and we are looking forward to continuing to invest and improve in our services in the future. Now I will hand it back over to Fionn to present the trustees' report.
Thank you very much. Okay, so this is trustee report. So in accordance with the Articles of Governance, upon being elected as a full-time officer, we also take on the role of a trustee of Swansea University Students' Union. And as a trustee, we sit on the highest level decision-making body for the Students' Union. So this has been a very unconventional year, but it's shown the resilience that the Students' Union has. Before COVID put the country into lockdown, we held a fair, transparent and democratic election with 51 candidates in the fray for 6 full-time and 12 part-time officer positions. A total of 35,666 votes were polled by 3,142 unique voters. And for the second year running, an all-women full-time officer team was elected for the 6 full-time officer roles. And I'm unbelievably proud to be part of this diversity, cultural and hard-working team. However, following this, the union was forced to develop its contingency and business continuity plans as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic outbreak. The union president and CEO became part of the daily operational group, where we contributed regularly by conveying student feedback to this group and to other steering groups. As well as this, the union conducted student surveys on the university's transition from face-to-face to virtual online learning and teaching, and fed this back to the university on where it needs to improve. During this time, our partnership with the university strengthened, and we managed to secure major entitlements for our members, such as releases from accommodation contracts for the last term of the academic year, and a safety net policy to give reassurance to students that their grades would not be deterred due to the pandemic. With a slow relaxation in pandemic-related restrictions, the union planned a phased return to campus. With plans in place, the union were now able to plan for the year ahead and develop ideas for the arrivals, welcome and engagement activities for the next year. Without a doubt, one of the union's biggest projects has been the creation and development of the dockyard. The space has allowed students to meet face-to-face with their peers, but in a safe manner, with hundreds of benches spread out. Housemates were able to make great memories through good food and drink, and were also able to give students part-time work, which benefited so many. The positive feedback from students was more than what we could have ever imagined, and when the funding ran out to keep running the dockyard, the responses from students cemented our belief that this space was vital for students, for their mental well-being, and it needed to stay open until the end of term. I wrote a paper alongside my colleagues in the events department asking for additional funding to keep the dockyard running until Christmas. Thankfully, this funding was secured from the university and students were able to continue to socialise safely with each other. With the situation getting increasingly worse coming into 2021, the Welsh Government and university decided that students were not to return until the end of March. Your full-time officer team have been incredibly busy raising your issues and concerns in the many meetings we sit on. We successfully lobbied the university to give rent reductions to students in university accommodation, and we continue to work to support those students in private rented accommodation through Advice and Support Centre, who have already had wins getting students out of contracts. Teresa and I work with the Learning and Teaching Committee to create a no detriment framework. Additionally, following consultations and surveys regarding the university wellbeing waiting times to seek support, we're able to discuss with the university SLT and wellbeing team to understand the misunderstandings around waiting times. We have now made improvements through our comms to students to directly signpost students to the university wellbeing services and not NHS wellbeing services, which do have an increased waiting time. We've also been to a number of meetings regarding tuition fees. We'll be meeting with the Vice-Chancellor on Friday to understand his stance on this issue and to give our and the student views to him. We've been to NUS meetings to discuss how the whole of Wales can lobby the government to listen, and also Liza attended a cross-university meeting on the issue. We'll continue to support the NUS Students Deserve Better campaign and raise the student voice on this matter. Additionally, with the very much welcome financial support from the Welsh Government, we are now planning and creating proposals to identify the areas within the SU where the funding would benefit and create and enhance the student experience. So although extracurricular activities have differed this year, our 180 plus societies and over 50 sports clubs have risen to the occasion and have thought of new and innovative ideas to engage their members through virtual events. Your sports officer successfully lobbied the university to ensure Wednesday afternoons were kept free from teaching, and several of our members in that time participated in charity events raising money for the NHS COVID pandemic crisis, and even created PPE for frontline workers. The SU also held a number of mental health and sport workshops for sport committees to equip them in supporting the well-being of their team members throughout the many lockdowns we've had. Despite the pandemic, 2,100 students signed up for societies, and we also held our first ever virtual refreshers fair for our societies. We're also very proud of our education zone. More than 400 subject and 20 college reps are elected and trained to play a pivotal role in helping to improve the academic experience of students as they attend various college level and central committee and student staff forums. More than ever, this year, they've been instrumental in a number of engagement sessions, which has helped to shape the experiences of students in relation to the no detriment framework, assessment and feedback policy, the quality enhancement review, and the college mergers. The feedback they've provided has been invaluable in shaping the way the Students' Union and university operates and responds to the challenges of operating within the pandemic. Our Advice and Support Centre has assisted 988 students in 1,058 cases. 52% of these were academic related, and this provides evidence as to the importance of the union remaining independent from the university and be able to represent students in such matters. The welfare advisors also provide the support to students in many areas, including housing, harassment, discrimination and hate crime, mental health and financial gain, by putting £194,846 back into the pockets of our students. So if we move on to the campaign slide, full-time officers have led on a number of powerful campaigns, raising awareness and representing the interests of so many of our student body. This slide only shows the few campaigns that your FGOs have held. Additionally to this, your Societies and Services Officer created the Trans and Non-Binary Support Group, where numerous students have found support through discussions and conversations. As well as this, Liza and Georgia Rose have put on several consent workshops to further educate our students on sexual consent, and Liza has also created a module and canvas called Respect at Swansea. The Students' Union has also signed the Victim Support Hate Crime Charter during Hate Crime Awareness Week to show our support in our stand against hate crime. So shaped around 7 key themes, our strategic plan reflects our ambition to continue to deliver and improve the Students' Union so that our members have the best possible experience while at Swansea University. We will continue to work towards our goals and ambitions and ensure that these remain a key driver in shaping our future and your student experience. So thank you very much. There is a full report and it will be uploaded onto the SU website and it'll be shared on social media. So thank you for listening to that. So our next slide is the officer accountability video, where we've answered questions such as what we've been up to, what our proudest achievements is to date in this role, and what we would like our successor to work on. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Fiona. I'm the president here at Swansea University Students' Union. My role as president involves leading on democratic procedures within the Students' Union, as well as being a key contact between the university and the SU, and to ensure all students are fairly and equally represented. My proudest achievement within this role was ensuring that there was a social space on both campuses where students were able to meet face-to-face but in a safe manner during the pandemic. And this came in the form of the Dockyard. And this is one of the biggest projects the SU really undertook. And we were the only students' union in the whole of the UK really to offer anything like this to our students. It comprised of 2 outdoor spaces on both campuses on Singleton and on Bay, with hundreds of benches spread out, where housemates were able to meet and make great memories through great street food and drink. And also it was an opportunity to give students some part-time work. The positive feedback we had from students was unbelievable, it was more than what we could have imagined. And when the funding ran out for the Dockyard, to keep the Dockyard running, the responses from students cemented our belief that this was vital for students and vital for their mental well-being, welfare, and it needs to stay open until the end of term. So I wrote a paper alongside my colleagues in the events team, asking for additional funding from the university to keep the Dockyard running until Christmas time. And thankfully, this funding was secured from the university and students were able to continue to socialise with each other. So that was my proudest achievement so far in this role. So what will I be working on in the coming weeks and months? Well, this role has very much this year been based off reacting to the changes that have continually been placed on the university and its students. So the next coming weeks, I'll be working on the student return and ensuring that students are told in enough time if they should return or not return to the university. And we need to make sure that students are told ahead of time so they can plan adequately. And we don't want any more uncertainty around return times. I'll also be working on ensuring that there's a fair process for students who are needing to apply for the additional funding that has been given to the university through the Welsh Government announcement of £40 million. And this money is allocated to students who are living in private housing accommodation, who are struggling maybe financially, and also with digital poverty. As well as this, I will be focusing on the Connect project and ensuring that the student innovation funds are being spent appropriately, and the projects here we are creating and spending money on are actually benefiting our students. So I'd love for my successor to continue our work, the officers and myself's work around my manifesto point, which is ensuring that there's a refreshers week or employability week is reinstated and implemented for students. So discussions on this point have been going on all year round, and it'd be great if this was implemented next year for students so they can have an adequate break between their end of their exams and starting back and going back to lectures again. It is really, really important from a welfare perspective. So it would be great if the next person who's president could continue with that work. Another big project that I would like my successor to work on is securing an adequate area for the SU within the Fulton House on Singleton campus. So Fulton House is the hub of student life on Singleton campus, where all our services are, yet our offices are in a corridor in Faraday. We need adequate space, we need adequate area for our students, especially for a society, so they can hold activities. So I would like for my successor to work on finding adequate space in the Fulton and lobbying the university to give us that space.
Hello everyone, my name is Teresa Bekaloo and I am the Students' Union Education Officer, and my role involves representing the academic interests of students. Two of my proudest achievements so far will be leading the student voice in the university's successful quality enhancement review, as well as creating the Black, Asian and Minority Ethnic Students Advisory Committee, which would help to hold the university to account, but also support the university on racial equity projects. In the coming months, I will be focusing on a decolonisation campaign that will look into aspects of the curriculum, but also looking into increasing the support and opportunities available to our Black, Asian and minority ethnic students. I also look forward to continuing to support our reps because their role constitutes a big part of what I do as Education Officer. I would like my successor to continue to champion the work of racial equity, because now more than ever, it is important that the voices of the minorities are heard in places where change can happen. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Katie. I'm the current Welsh Affairs Officer. So one of my main parts of my role is to provide support and representation for Welsh-speaking students who are from Wales or studying part of their course through the medium of Welsh. I also promote the Welsh language, culture and history to all of our students, and I work with the university to ensure that we're as bilingual as possible. So one of my proudest achievements in my role has been improving my confidence of Welsh speakers who are from non-Welsh speaking backgrounds and getting more of the student body engaged in Welsh language, culture and history through Welsh Wednesdays that I've been doing on the office's Instagram. So I'm personally not fully confident in my Welsh speaking abilities, even though I am fluent. So this was important to me to help others who are in the same position, and I know a lot of students who are. So I took the Cwrs Greyness course last term, which helped me improve my Welsh grammar, which is something that I really struggle with. So I'm working on a Welsh medium podcast to discuss important issues within Wales, and I'm hoping to feature some podcasts for learners and some bilingual podcasts. So that's quite exciting that I'm working on at the moment. And I'm also planning on launching a free optional module for all students on Canvas, where they can have a space to learn about the history, culture of Wales, as well as taking a kind of introduction to Welsh language course, or like a little taster with some quizzes.
My name is Georgia Smith and I've been your sports officer this rather strange academic year. Within my role as sports officer, my main job is to try and promote and engage as many students in physical activity as possible during their time at university. I'm the key point of liaison between the university sports department and the SU. And it's my job to make sure that the student voice regarding sport is heard at higher levels of the university, such as the University SMT and also the Sports Executive Committee. Time has been spent supporting all of our 54 sports teams committees to enable them to do their best job possible. So yeah, that's what I get up to as sports officer. Proudest moment in the role would have to be leading the Movember campaign from the SU's perspective, and just the overwhelming amount of support our sports team gave the campaign, giving men's mental health the proper platform it needs. It was great to see over £60,000 raised for the Movember charity. And I just think throughout the month, I was just proud to see how I could adapt the campaign to both delivering virtual events such as the It Takes Balls to Talk About Mental Health webinar, which I chaired, which had 6 great guest speakers, and also being able to provide some in-person events with the help of our sports teams. We did 3 COVID-safe sports tournaments, which when I look back are probably one of the few in-person activities that actually happened last term. And it was all for a great cause, being men's health, and also the COVID-safe Move Ball. So in summary, just the whole campaign was really amazing, and I'm super proud to be a part of that. My projects will be, depending on the landscape of sport and government guidance, my priority as sports officer is going to be, as soon as we're allowed to play sport and people are about to be back training, competing, and the university permits it, I want as many people playing sport as possible, depending on the guidelines. On a more kind of online approach, I'm going to be reviewing, with the help of a fellow FTO, Katie, our disability sport offering at the university, and seeing what educational courses we can provide for our sports committees to make our clubs more inclusive. I also will be leading on implementing the Engage strand of the Sports Swansea Active University strategy, which is a 3-year strategy, which is going to take a lot of planning and time to make sure that we can basically fulfill the targets on the strategic document. I also am going to be wanting to carry on putting on mental health and sport workshops, and also providing some emotional resilience training for our sports teams.
My name is Georgia Rose and I'm the current Societies and Services Officer here at the Union. My job role is quite broad. I have to oversee 170 active societies, oversee the commercial services, so these include everything from Taff and Towie to Route Zero. I also chair the Society's Executive Committee, where we're constantly approving and declining new society applications. There's a lot of financial responsibility within the role too. You have to authorise and decline sports club and society transactions and ensure that payments get made on time. The things I'll be working on over the next couple of months will be improving the society experience in the pandemic. It has been difficult to get clear guidelines from the Welsh Government on what societies are allowed to do. I've been in direct talks with them and I'm proud to say that we will be coming up with some clearer guidelines. I will be ensuring that societies get a send-off at the end of the year, whether it be virtual or socially distanced pool.
Hello everyone, my name is Liza and I'm your elected welfare officer for Swansea Students' Union. My role, as you can imagine, encompasses so many different things, but more generally, I work towards the betterment of well-being and welfare within our student community. This is inclusive, but not limited to, leading or collaborating on welfare-based campaigns, or ensuring inclusivity at all levels of your student experience. I work extremely closely with our Advice and Support Centre as well as our student services, which is inclusive of your wellbeing services as well as disability, just to name a few. My proudest achievement, well, honestly, there's just so many, so it's really hard to pick from, but I think it would definitely be the introduction of the Respect at Swansea module. This is an interactive educational and preventative measure against sexual misconduct in Swansea University. It's the first of its kind in the UK, so that's always really exciting, and it's kind of like my child in a Canvas module shape. I think off the back of that as well, it was really amazing to be able to do monthly consent training alongside our Societies and Services Officer, Georgia Rose, so that was kind of like the icing on top of the cake. In the following months, I aim to introduce a food voucher scheme which will benefit our vulnerable students during this really difficult time. As well, I aim to work to tackle period poverty within our Swansea community. As well, I'm going to continue my work on accessibility and hopefully host more mental health workshops, as well as, on top of that, working on all the many campaigns that are coming up.
Okay, so that's our Office Accountability video for this year, and it's just things that we've been doing and what we aim for until our role ends. So I'll now pass over to Liza and Teresa to give us an update on what our brilliant PTOs have been doing and what they've been up to.
Thank you very much, Fihan. Before I start, I'd like to extend a heartfelt gratitude to our part-time officers who have made the most of the roles regardless of the current circumstances. Currently, we have 16 part-time elected officers who work on campaigns and events relevant to the interest of the roles, alongside us, the full-time officers, to advocate for a better student experience. For example, this year I have worked with the International Student Officer, Comfort Obaje, on the International Student Conference, as well as Rodriguez Mbogon Pase, the BME Officer, on Black History Month and setting up a Black, Asian and Minority Ethnic Students Advisory Committee. I will now hand over to Liza, who will take us through some of the work that our part-time officers do.
Thanks so much, T. So being the former Black and Minority Ethnic Officer last year, it was super exciting for me to get to work with our part-time officers this year. I've worked with our Black and Minority Ethnic Officer when he introduced the first Islamophobia Awareness Month campaign that we've ever done in the SU. I've also worked with our Mental Health Awareness Officer in providing more mental health workshops, our International Officer during International Students Week, and our LGBT+ Singleton and Bay officers, as well as our non-binary and trans and non-binary officer on LGBTQI+ History Month. Your Students' Union is very appreciative of all the work done by all our part-time officers, and we would like to share an update with you on what they've done for you in Term 1. So just starting off in the next slide, please. So here we've got Rodriguez. So our Black and Minority Ethnic Officer, Rodriguez, has been working alongside the SU to launch the first Black and Minority Ethnic Students Advisory Committee. Your Environment Officer, Keris, worked to support the Veganuary campaign alongside your Societies and Services Officer and your Welsh Affairs Officer. Your Ethics Officer, Theo, has been attending our executive meetings to keep up to date with everyone. Your Disabilities Officer, Miles, has assisted with the campaign Disabilities Awareness Month, as well as providing some really amazing resources. So if we can go to the next slide. Your GenSec, you can probably see her here, Alpha, has assisted with our student forums and will assist us with our future student forums to come. Your International Officer, Comfort, has organized International Students Week and has introduced an international buddy scheme through Connect. Your Trans and Non-Binary Officer, Vivian, has been working alongside Georgia Rose to run 10Bs, which is our Trans and Non-Binary Support Group, and it's the first of its kind at Swansea University as well. And both Viv and our LGBT Officer, Kieran, have been assisting with LGBTQIA+ History Month. I'll pass back to Teresa to cover the rest of our amazing part-time officers.
Thanks, Liza. So just following on from Liza, your postgraduate taught officer, Jess, will be looking to create postgraduate online networks, and your caring responsibilities officer, Samantha, will be looking for more ways to create networking opportunities for students with caring responsibilities. Your freshers officer, Jacob, will be looking for ways to provide better online social platforms for freshers to join in. Your commuter students officer, Maddie, has been working on reviewing the placement policies within the university. Your LGBT+ Bay officer, Alex, is assisting with LGBTQIA+ History Month. Your mental awareness officer, Aisha, assisted the SU with handing out welcome packs at the start of the first term. Your women's officer has been attending our executive meetings to keep up to date with everyone. And finally, your Mature Students Officer, Liz, ran a Mature Students Conference and is constantly thinking of new ways to support mature and atypical students. She is also an NES Wales delegate. So this is only scratching the surface on the amount of work and effort that our part-time officers put in representing you, the student body, and there is so much more to come. I will now pass over to Georgia Smith, who will give an overview of the upcoming SU elections.
Thanks, Teresa. Thanks, Liza. So the exciting part, elections. The SU elections are in full swing and the nomination period for elections is closing on the 19th of February. So that's coming up. We really want to encourage as many people as possible to check out all the positions available in this year's elections and nominate yourself for either a part-time or full-time role that could interest you. If we could go to the next slide, please. So I'm just going to run through some key dates for this elections period. So as I just touched on, nominations have been open since the 25th of January and nominations are going to close this week on the 19th of February at 3 p.m. Following the nominations closing, we're then going to have a compulsory candidate meeting for anyone who's taking part in the elections this year, and that will give you all the information that you need to know. We then have the manifesto deadline on the 23rd of February, and then the exciting part, campaigning begins on the 5th of March, followed by voting opening on the 8th of March at 11. And then voting then closes on the 11th and you have to get your receipts in by the 11th. And then we all find out who the new team are, both full-time and part-time roles on the 12th of March. So there's some key dates for you to write down in your diaries if you are interested in getting involved. On the next slide, we're just going to play you a short video which explains all the reasons why you should stand in this year's elections. So if you're ready to go over to the video. Sorry guys, we're just having some musical issues there. I'm not sure if we're gonna skip the video. So there's loads of benefits running in the SU elections. It's great for your CV. It's a full-time paid job, and you get so many different opportunities, hopefully in a non-COVID world, to really get involved and help the student community at Swansea. So we have 6 full-time positions available. We have the president, who leads on all student-based issues. They're the main point of contact and the public voice and sometimes face of the Students' Union. They have to deal with a range of matters from national campaigns, collaborating with the university and NUS, and they oversee the governance and democracy of the SU. We then have the education officer, who leads on the education zone. They chair the education committee, which is made up of college representatives and work with a network of subject representatives, and also work closely with the student voice representation coordinator. The main aim of the education officer is trying to improve the academic experience and maintain a strong relationship with both staff and student reps across the 7 colleges and 2 campuses in the university. Then the Welsh Affairs Officer is there to provide support and representation of students who are Welsh and Welsh speaking within the university. For example, students who want to study their degree in Welsh. The Welsh Affairs Officer will also work closely with Academy Hywel Teifi and Welsh Translation Services, both within the university and the SU. And their main goal is just to make sure that the university is supporting bilingual students as well as they can. The Societies and Services Officer supports your societies and also all the services that we have at the Students' Union. Similarly, the Sports Officer supports our sports clubs and works closely with Sports Swansea in trying to make the university as physically active as possible. And the last full-time paid role available is the Welfare Officer, which works closely with the Student Advice and Support Centre and supporting students on many needs that they may have throughout their time at university. So that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour of the roles and what they are available, but there's more information on our Student Union website about full-time positions. So it's not all about the full-time officers. We also have 12 part-time positions that you can do alongside of your studies. And I feel like Liza and Teresa summed up pretty well all the different projects that you can get involved with if you are a part-time officer. You work closely with the whole university, sorry, not university, the whole union team. And just to touch on a few, we have our international officer, women's officer, and mental health awareness officer. So all of those positions are available, and if they capture your interest, you can put yourself forward for a part-time role in this year's elections. So hopefully I may have inspired a few of you to stand in this year's elections. And if you want more information, you can go to the web link there, which Tom kindly put in the chat. And just to reinforce that, the nominations do close on the 19th, and it's brilliant working for the SU. So if anyone wants to get involved, join in this year's elections, and best of luck to any candidates that do. And I'm just going to pass you over now to Katie, who's going to take you through motions.
Thank you, Georgia. So yeah, I'm going to be giving like a brief overview of how the motions work. And we've received one motion, which I'll be outlining shortly. After I've presented the motion, a link to a SurveyMonkey is going to be shared in the chat, where you can vote anonymously. So there's an option for anything to be repeated and the option to vote for parts to be removed. So I'm now going to go on to the 5 steps that break down what a motion is. So a motion is a formal proposal and is given to the Student Voice team. The motion is discussed by those that are for and against the changes at the AGM. Sections of the motions may be removed, so students voting for parts. Students vote on whether or not to pass the motion at the AGM, and if the policy is passed, we will carry out the necessary changes to fulfil the motion. If the policy is denied, then nothing changes. So I'm now going to lay out how a motion is set out. So the motion consists of 3 sections, which is this union notes, this union believes, and this union resolves. So as I said earlier, we have one motion, which is for Tenby Support Group instituted in the trans and non-binary PTO job description. So Tenby's was launched in September 2020 by the Societies and Services Full-Time Officer in collaboration with the Trans and Non-Binary Part-Time Officer. So Tenby's offers a platform for trans and non-binary students to raise concerns and bring awareness within the community. So as of September 2018, the estimated population of trans and non-binary people in the UK is between 200,000 and 500,000. So the union is always looking to provide platforms where students can safely express their opinions and their concerns. Tenby's provides a platform that enables students to come together and to feel comfortable sharing experiences by voicing these experiences to the union that can work towards better representation and becoming more inclusive to all members. So effective from the next election, Tenby's and its responsibilities will fall under the job description of the trans and non-binary PTO, while supported by the welfare officer or another full-time officer. So the proposer for this is Georgia Rose Gleeson, and the seconder is Liza Leibowitz. Sorry. So I just wanted to give an opportunity to both just to speak for a minute, if you wanted to, on the motion.
Thank you, Katie. I just want to say, obviously, this is something I'm very proud of. I can't take full credit for it, though. When I was a part-time officer last year, I was the environment officer, and I worked alongside last year's trans and non-binary awareness officer, Rex, who tried really hard to get this going, but then COVID came along and made it, it couldn't get going in time. So that's why I wanted to get it sorted for September. It has been incredibly successful. I've had loads of positive feedback. It's created a really lovely environment for students, and I've had some feedback from staff too. And I just think it's really important that as a union that's trying really hard to represent all of its students, that we push for this and we ensure that it continues, as I don't want the work that's been made to create a more inclusive environment for trans and non-binary students to be lost if I am no longer in post. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgia Rose. And Liza, did you have anything to add?
No, just to kind of second what Georgia Rose has said, it's been extremely successful this year, and would be a shame if when Georgia Rose leaves post eventually, this kind of washes away. So it would be great to implement it within this remit and keep the longevity going. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you both. So is there anybody who would like to speak from the floor? Just give few seconds, just if anyone wants to raise their hand or pop in the chat if they'd like to speak. Can't see anyone, so I'll move on. So is there anybody who wishes to take part? No? Okay, so if you did want to take part, then you could do it through the chat function. But now we're going to be moving on to placing your votes. So one of the student voice team will be putting the SurveyMonkey into the chat function, where you can place your votes anonymously. So I'm now going to pass over to our General Secretary, Alpha, for the next section.
Thank you, Katie. So yeah, as Fionn mentioned at the start of the AGM, I'll be taking the next part, which is the questions, where your full-time officers will be answering any questions you have. So if you do have any questions, please put them in the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. We'll try to answer all your questions, but as Fionn mentioned, if any are unanswered, they will be answered and sent out in a news piece during the next few days. So don't worry, they will all be answered at some point. Before we go on to questions from the floor, I'm just going to pass back to 3 of the FTOs to discuss some important points. So first, I'll pass on to Fionn to touch upon how long will rent rebates be available for, and what is the Students' Union currently doing to support students living in private accommodation?
Okay, yeah, so thank you, Alpha. So before we got to the questions, we just wanted to touch on some kind of big topics within the student body and within the university at the moment, not just Swansea, you know, this is across the UK. So the first being university accommodation rent reductions. So we lobbied for this to be implemented, and I'm so pleased that it has, because you know so many students are currently at home at the moment, not using these services, and it will not be right for the university to charge these students. So rent reductions will be available until the Welsh Government and the university confirm that it's acceptable for students to come back to campus and university. So kind of once restrictions has been lifted, really. So, you know, we're really proud of that, and I hope, you know, it's helped a lot of students. Regarding private accommodation, so we have no direct control or we have no direct control over private landlords, and we can only try and influence them by sharing, you know, information on hardship and then requesting for discounts, rebates, releases for our students. But what we've been doing is working and supporting the NUS UK Students Deserve Better campaign, which lobbies the government to support those students facing hardship due to rents or other COVID-related hardships could be supported. So basically, lobbying the government to give money to students through student hardship. Maybe students can't pay for accommodation because they have lost their part-time work, because you know they might be furloughed or so on. So because of the pandemic. We have been working with the SU, obviously the Advice and Support Centre, advising individual students with issues and complaints against the landlords, and we have been successful with contract releases. So if anyone is trying to get out of their contract and is struggling to do so, the Advice and Support Centre may be able to help you. And we've been working with NUS Wales and other SUs, and we intend to develop kind of template letters that we aim to send out to housing providers in private sectors, estate agents and purpose-built sector accommodation providers, and also share them with students so they can send them on then to their landlords. And we're also having conversations with the university for them to also do the same thing as us. So, you know, us and the university to work together to make sure, you know, students aren't kind of scammed at the moment, having to pay for accommodation when they aren't they're using it. I also wanted to touch on those two, but something else I wanted to touch on was tuition fees. So like I said in my trustee report, this is something that's constantly been discussed, and as you know, and as an SU, we know that you know, you haven't had what you signed up for. Many of you can't access labs, you haven't had access to services, and you thought this might be a blended approach, but due to the circumstances, it's mostly online. So we're currently making plans for an all Welsh or UK universities approach to this, and having discussions with the NUS president, Becky Rickett, so they can lobby the government. This is a government decision, so it's now about us and you guys, the students, lobbying the government through campaigns and ensuring your voices are heard. we are meeting with the Vice Chancellor on Friday to discuss this, to discuss his views, to give our views, and also to give the student voice views. And the last thing was just that the Welsh Government, the £40 million that's been given to Welsh universities. So Swansea Uni has been allocated £7.2 million out of that, and this money will go towards supporting students with financial hardship. So if they're struggling with financial hardship, for instance, they're able to pay for rent, and it can go towards, private rented accommodation. As of yet, due to the no information that we've had from the Welsh Government, they haven't been very helpful on this front. We're not sure how the process of application will look like, but we will make sure that this is a fair and transparent process for students to apply for the funding. And once we do know more, we will share that with you and communicate it with you all. So that's just what I wanted to say before we have any questions.
Oh, fantastic. Diolch fi, very thorough report there. So now Teresa will touch upon who do students contact regarding the no detriment framework and how it would affect their individual circumstance.
Thank you very much, Alpha. So I'd advise the students go back to their student support service within the colleges to get more information on the no detriment framework. And I know we advise colleges to host Q&A sessions to explain the framework and how it would apply to students. So if you have any more concerns on this issue, please reach out to your student service, to your student support service within your colleges. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. And now Liza will touch upon what has the Students' Union been doing to support students in relation to the sexual attacks within the local community.
Right, so just before speaking about this, obviously we're going to be speaking about sexual harassment, sexual assault. So just a trigger warning, if you're uncomfortable with this topic, feel free to mute me. And when I'm done speaking, I'll just put my thumb up or whatever it is, and you can put us back on. So obviously we understand there's been a lot of cases of sexual assault and harassment coming through from our students, specifically done by 3 members of the Swansea community. I'd like to start off by just saying we're super sympathetic that this happened, and we're really trying to do our best to kind of counter the effect on our students. So I'll just start off by saying one of the perps has recently been arrested. One of them has also been identified to have an ongoing mental health problem. So myself as welfare officer, alongside our welfare team within the university, our community team and our director of student services have been working really closely with South Wales Police to best support our students and provide a student safety campaign. We also have a really great addition in our welfare team, who is Nikki Billingham, who is a former South Wales Police detective in the Serious Sexual Crimes Division. So Nikki's contacts and her experience have been a real bonus to Swansea University, and we're surely on the right track to best support our students. I just want to note that if you are ever in any danger, please call 999. Additionally, just to note what we have, we provide free personal safety products, which are rape alarms, through our Students' Union. So they're going to be given out through my uni hub from now on if anybody does need to get any. We also have our Safe Zone app, which students can essentially use to communicate with security on multiple things, even as simple as having someone walk you down Singleton Park if you're ever feeling unsafe. So as well, just to note, if you have been affected and you do need support, please reach out to our Advice and Support Centre or myself if you want. I think the Advice and Support Centre details were posted in the chat earlier. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Liza, and thanks Fionn and Teresa as well. We'll now start taking questions from the floor. So the first question is for both Fionn and Georgia Rose. So how is student feedback being used in decision making within the university?
So I'll go first if that's okay. Student feedback has, played a pivotal role at the moment. It's instrumental in making the changes within the university to make, your learning and teaching experience and your student experience the best it can be. So I sit on the daily operational group, as I said earlier, and also because of COVID, many work streams were created, and all these work streams were kind of pinpointed on different topics. So you have a group within the SU and the university working on specific topics. So for instance, learning and teaching, no detriment framework. So whatever kind of feedback we get from students, say for instance around the no detriment framework, there was a bit of misunderstanding around PGRs and stuff, what they were getting, we automatically feed this back to the group then, and then they can relay comms out to students. As well as this, any feedback that we've had, we take to the SLT, so Senior Leadership Team and FTO meetings. So they happen around monthly, and that is basically taking feedback from students to the highest point possible in the university to get them answered, and make sure that the university is fully listening to, the issues and concerns that students are raising at the moment.
Thank you, Fionn. Did you have anything to add to that, Georgia Rose?
Thanks, Fionn. Thanks, Albert. Yeah, I just want to add from a society perspective. Obviously, the students who volunteer their time to be on the society committee and society members are so important, and the reason that I'm in this role today is because of them, and any feedback that I get from them, I take forward. So an example of this is when societies have events now, obviously it's difficult for them at the moment because all of their events have to be virtual, and it's a lot more difficult to advertise their events to members and new students, as normally they would do that in a physical freshers fair, but they haven't been able to. So Jerry and I ensured that there was a space on the Students' Union website under the What's On section, where any society that filled out a Google form and sent us any events they had planned for the semester were posted on there, so that it's all under one place. And then in addition to that, we obviously did the Refreshers Fair in January, which came off of the back of feedback about how there wasn't a Refreshers Fair in September for societies. And yeah, I just want to emphasize that any feedback you give us is so critical. And personally as well, any feedback Liza and I have had from our consent training sessions, we've encompassed that and changed the consent training sessions appropriately as a result. So obviously the reason all of us are in this job is to represent you and give you the best possible experience. So any feedback that you have, we take to the highest points and prioritize that over anything.
Sorry, just one thing as well. To ensure that we're kind of getting feedback as regularly as we can around things that are happening within the university. We know things are changing constantly, guidelines are changing, things are changing within the university. We have put on FTO catch-ups that happen every Thursday, 12 till 1. They were, all the FTOs used to sit in the catch-ups, but now we've changed it to every week you'll have a different officer with a different topic. So you can go back and feedback on that topic. It'd be great to have students there, telling us what's happening within the university, what's happening within their course, maybe they're not happy with it. So making sure then that we can feed that back. So the links are posted on the SU website and on our social media. So if anyone does have anything to, bring up, you can email us, or you can go drop into that FTO drop in, which would be fab.
Brilliant, thank you both. The next question is for Georgia Rose again. So our club/society is really struggling to get new members this year. What can we do?
Sure, I sympathise and understand how difficult it is at the moment to get reach out there, but I'm in this role to support you. So if you reach out to me, if you drop me an email, or which can be found on the SU website, or if you add me on my work Facebook, which is at Georgia Rose Gleeson SU, and message me, I can help you by sharing any socials that you have. I can send out an email to all societies, asking them to promote as well. Jerry and I work very closely with Teresa and Thomas, and they talk to their student reps. There's absolutely loads of them, and they're so amazing, and they're very engaged, and they'll be more than willing to get the word out to students as well. But most importantly, I would say don't give up on, I know it's difficult and engagement isn't as great as it would have been in previous years or in future years where there isn't COVID, but don't give up. The work that you're doing is so important, and you are reaching students, and the students that you are reaching really, really appreciate it. And there's no doubt that societies are critical to a student's mental health and getting them through COVID, as that gives them a chance to meet with other students. So sorry, I've just seen something pop up in the chat. Yeah, I would just say message me at any time and I'll be able to help you by promoting, and that's what all of the officers are here for as well.
If I could just echo what Georgia Rose has said there, I completely agree. my emails are always open. I've sat down with quite a few clubs before, like last term, and also a few this term, just to try and discuss like what sort of virtual events they could do, how they can respond quickly when we can return to sport. So just honestly, anything I can do to help plan and create things and promote you, and the SU can promote you. Also Sport Swansea can promote your club, and hopefully we can just get lots of members ready for when we can start playing sport again. So I think the main message there is contact us and we can help you all on a club by club basis and society basis. And the work that you're doing is really important, because that is like the backbone of the student experience at university, is sports clubs and society. So just contact us and hopefully we can create a plan and get more members for your clubs at the moment. So I think that's all.
Fab, thank you both. The next question is for Liza. What does your Advice and Support Centre do?
Thank you. I think Fionn did touch on this a little bit earlier, but I'll kind of go into depth with it. Our advice and support team provide multiple forms of, there's no better way to say it, but advice and support. They provide amazing services, including like covering housing, academics, legal issues, mental health, money worries, and personal problems. They work quite closely with other bodies within the university, which include our welfare team and our wellbeing team. Examples of ways that they can actually assist you, maybe just to give you like some insight. They could attend your university disciplinaries. Hopefully nobody's actually getting in trouble in here, and they can ensure that the right procedures are being taken place and that give you some extra guidance to go through it. They're also a third-party hate crime reporting center, and they also consist of 2 amazing sexual violence liaison officers. This is obviously just scratching the surface of what they can do, and for more information you can check our SU website, and I think Thomas had actually posted their contact details earlier. And while we're on the topic of mental health and wellbeing services, I'm so sorry to steal the show. I just wanted to highlight some work that has been done around wellbeing counselling times. I know a lot of students had complaints surrounding wellbeing counselling times this year, and just pretty much saying that they've been extremely long. After a lot of work and some amazing student input, we've identified the issue, and most GP practices seem to be signposting students to counselling services, but these services are outside of the university. So if you ever did want to receive any type of counselling or mental health support from the university, you'd have to go directly through the wellbeing page, and they have a triage form on there, and the usual response to this is about 1 to 2 days, if possible. Yeah, Stephanie.
Alpha, you're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you. The next question for you, Fionn. Is there any chance the dockyard will be coming back?
Oh, what a lovely question. We all know how, well, I absolutely love the dockyard. I thought it was amazing. We know how important it is for the student experience. You know, you've come to university, you're so restricted at the moment with the guidelines and everything. And, you know, I love my uni experience, and I'd want to make sure that everyone else has, you know, the best experience possible. You know, I'd love for the dockyard to come back, and hopefully, you know, I think the university really saw the need for it from a mental well-being perspective. You know, students need to go somewhere other than just sitting within their accommodation or within their, you know, living room. So maybe, you know, if we've got enough kind of backing from the students and it's something that they really, really want, then I'd definitely be more than happy to write a proposal again to get some more funding for it, because it was brilliant. And, you know, maybe we could change it up. We can learn from the dockyard what we did there, and maybe bring something else instead that might be good for students. So no, but nice question, that.
Thank you, Fee. The next question for Liza. Are there plans to bring Changing Places Lewes into the university?
I believe this question was specifically around CAFTA changing spaces. So just to note, accessibility was something I was really, really keen on working on this year, and I've had the opportunity to work with estates quite closely, and I provided them with a list of fixes that I feel they should work on as soon as possible. One of these being introducing spaces for changing catheters, which has been green lighted. So estates will be working on introducing better spaces for this. Obviously, it's been a bit difficult because we've been trying to get in a new accessibility report done in by our disability awareness officer, but it's been a bit difficult this year. But they have said that they will be working on it, and that's obviously great. And this is just one of the one of a number of things that they've agreed to work on accessibility wise this year.
Perfect, thank you, Liza. The next question for you again, Fee. Is the Students' Union committed to supporting and working with the Swansea Rent Strike group?
Okay, yeah. So to give you everyone like a bit of context, when the Swansea University Rent Strike group had their Zoom meeting, the full-time officers also went. We became aware of it because we just saw it on our social media, and obviously it's something that we want to support. So yeah, we kind of did engage incredibly late. I'm not sure if it was incredibly late, but later because we just actually weren't made aware of it. From there, we've had meetings with the actual students who are leading on the rent strike, and you know, we met the full-time officers, students, you know, leading on it, and our CEO to see how we could further support them. From that, we arranged a meeting with the students leading on it, full-time officers, and well, myself, Liza, and the Vice Chancellor, the Chief Registrar, and so basically Andrew Rhodes, who leads on on the accommodation style and the COVID issues at the moment. Martin Stringer, so basically the senior leadership team within the university, and the students had the chance to, you know, meet with them and discuss the problems around that. So, you know, we are supporting them, and we've also spoken to our execs, so our part-time officers, about, you know, the rent strike and what the Students' Union can do to support them. So at the moment, what we're doing is just, you know, supporting them through having conversations with the university, lobbying the conversations, and seeing what we can do in that way.
Thank you. We've had one question as well regarding a few last-minute emails from the university, specifically regarding the refreshers fair. Georgia Rose is addressing this matter about the last-minute emails. I don't know if you've got anything to add to that, Georgia Rose?
Sure, thank you for raising this. I just want to say that the reason societies had earlier notice than most students was because societies were asked to reserve a place at Refreshers Fair. So we needed to know a certain amount of numbers, so that's why societies knew earlier. However, the original email did go out, and it was on socials, it was on the website, and it was in the newsletter about a week before the Refreshers Fair actually happened, and then the reminders went out 2 days before. So I think there might just be a little bit of confusion with what happened there. Maybe the original email was missed and the person or the students only saw the reminder email. So I just want to emphasize that we did get the message out early, and it's a really good idea to always keep up to date with our website and the Students' Union Facebook page, as that's where a lot of our information goes on. So yeah, that's what I have to say on that one. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are all the questions we've got at the minute. If you do have any more questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A. Thank you.
Okay, so if that's it, no more questions, is everyone pretty sure? No? Okay, so we'll now move on then to our closing remarks for this evening. So I'll pass over to Minkash Sood, who's our Chief Executive Officer at the Students' Union, for closing remarks.
Thank you, Fionn. Since I wasn't a panelist, I just want to make sure, you know, that are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You obviously won't see me, but thank you very much. Nosfaida, good evening, everyone. AGM usually are a matter of compliance and legal requirements for charities that are registered or with the companies that are registered with the Companies House. And that is true of most of the private or third sector organizations. Usually audited accounts are presented, the annual reports are read and presented to the members. But the student union AGMs are slightly different in a way that these also provide an opportunity for the union, its representatives, its elected reps, and the staff to engage and interact with our membership. AGMs also provide a forum also, which is very unique to SUs again, in terms of bringing in policy motions, debate them and adopt them. And we just saw a motion coming through. Of course, there are other platforms as well. For example, the student forums. Elected representatives, they provide an account of their achievements or what they have managed to achieve or what their plans are for the rest of their term with the SU. So in a way, AGMs are a culmination of series of many democratic meetings. As I mentioned, student forums, executive meetings, but also many other governance committee meetings that take place, for example, trustees committees, the annual audit committee meetings, and personnel and finance and operations subcommittees, health and safety committees. So it's a culmination of all the year round, where different mechanisms are developed for student members to feed in and the union to develop its plans and also provide an account of how they are progressing along delivering on their strategy that is agreed by the union. So I must therefore convey my sincere thanks to all of you who have taken time and made the effort to come and attend the proceedings tonight. Unfortunately, they are in a virtual world, as most of the things last 337 days have been. But really gratitude to you all. Thanks also to our brilliant elected officers, full-time and part-time officers, our external trustees who are also here with us, and also the wonderful staff team actually, who put the stuff together. Most of the time they stay behind the scene, working almost invisibly, but they continue to strive and work alongside our elected leaders to provide services to our members, and so that the union can move on from year on year. So now I know that you were given a presentation on one of the session was on elections. So the AGM will be immediately followed by a very hectic election activity through which you will elect your new full-time officer and part-time officer teams as we continue to seek your support and engagement for the coming year. So have a lovely rest of the term. Stay safe, continue staying safe, very important. Thank you very much. Nostra, good night, everyone.